Hi everyone, Materim here again with another battle report. This one has the High Elves facing off against the Empire in a 2,400 point battle for the pass. I do want to apologize. This is the first time I tried using my flash with the camera, and it washed out a couple of the pictures, but I still think you can see just about everything. So let's go ahead and get into it. Here is our pass. You can see the new observatory that Terrain Wench did for me at the top corner there. We also had a standard forest, fence, Nehekaran Sphinx, and a normal building, and mysterious water way down in this corner. So you can see I'm playing the Empire, and Michael is giving his new High Elves a try. So starting on the left, we have his Lothran Sky Cutter. In the building is a bolt thrower cunningly disguised as a dwarf cannon. In front of that is a unit of 36 spearmen with full command, the Banner of Eternal Flame. With them is his Archmage, level 4 to high magic, with the Talisman of Preservation, Dispel Scroll, and Spell Thieving Sword. And his Noble BSB with Armor of Fortune, Shield of the Merwim, and a halberd. Next to that, again cunningly disguised as Dwarven Hammerers, is a unit of 20 Swordmasters with full command and the Ranger's Banner. Then over here he has his unit of 13 Silverhelms with full command and shields. With them is his Prince on Elven Steed with Barding, with the Armor of Destiny, Ogre Blade, Shield, and the Crown of Alrazar. In front of that is a unit of 20 Sisters of Avalorn with a High Sister and the Reaver Bow. And next to that is a White Lion Chariot. So on my left I have a unit of 21 Flagellates with a Prophet of Doom. Next to that is my newly repainted steam tank in the colors of the Imperial Gunnery School, and God is it going to act like it. And then 15 spearmen there that are actually a detachment for the halberdier unit that you can barely see there. Alright, and here's the remainder of my army. I have a unit of 30 halberdiers with a 15-man spearman detachment and a 5-man archer detachment in front of that. In that unit is my Archlector with the Armor of Meteoric Iron and the Crown of Command, and my BSB with the Armor of Destiny. Behind that is my Celestial Hurricanum. Next to that is my Hellstorm Rocket Battery. In front of the Hellstorm Rocket Battery, hiding behind the building, is my level 4 Wizard Lord to Shadow, with my Power Scroll, Talisman of Preservation, and Iron Curse icon. Next to that is my unit of 20 Great Swords with full command and the Razor Standard. And then in red and blue are my Swordsmen, a 20-man unit with full command, and 2 5-man archer detachments on either side of that. And in the Swordsman is my Witch Hunter, who has the Sword of Anti-Heroes and the Gambler's Armor. So I got first turn. I moved up hard with my Flagellates and tried to generate 5 steam points with the steam tank so I could get in there and start shooting. I misfired with it, and it inflicted 2 wounds on itself and got 2 additional steam points. So I put 3 points into the movement and promptly rolled an 8 on 3 dice. So it's struggling already. And here in the center, my Shadow Mage goes into the building, and everything else moves up pretty aggressively. I've got the archers going to be running chaff for me, but I just need to get them closer to the elves before they can do that job. Had a fairly bad magic phase, but I did manage to get Melkoffs off on the Sisters of Avalorn and lowered all 3 of their stats, ballistic skill, weapon skill, movement, whatever, by 3 points. So I thought that was pretty good. And the cannon on the steam tank ends up shooting the Sky Cutter and inflicting 2 wounds. So Elf's turn, Spearmen stay where they are, Sword Masters come on hard, and the Lothran Sky Cutter essentially tries to get away from the steam tank and move towards the center of the board. Then on this flank, the Chariot comes up hard, the Sisters don't move because they don't want to take any further penalties, and the Silver Helms just kind of move around so they'll be able to go around the archers. I think he's really regretting putting them in that setup because it's going to slow those knights down. So then during his magic phase, he manages to get off the Dispel Magic spell irresistibly, so gets rid of the penalty I put on the sisters, but it does cost him. He's lost 2 levels from his high mage now. So for a little while I've got a magical superiority, and I'm okay with that. Alright, and in shooting, the now unhexed sisters annihilate one of the 5-man archer detachments, and luckily I don't panic here, so that's really the only plus side of that. I didn't realize how just absolutely terrifying those sisters are, and I don't really have a good way of dealing with them because I don't have much in the way of ranged in this army at all. So during Empire turn 2, the flagellates keep coming up and around, generate 2 steam points, misfire again, and get the misfire result that says I can't use it on the steam, the breath weapon, which is fine because I use it to try and move closer to the swordsman and roll, I think, 3 inches on 2 dice. This poor steam tank is in absolute trouble. It just is just not doing what I need it to do. And here on this side, you see I start to move up my archers to sort of block, and it's a good idea, but I end up just not executing it very well, and you'll see what I mean by that in a few minutes. But I have this weird fear of High Elves, mainly because they're so much better than the Empire. And I kind of lose a lot of my tactical ability when I'm faced with them. And over here you see the same thing. I've got this so that when he does come charging in with that chariot, I'm planning on either standing and shooting or probably counterattacking just to try and get the extra combat res, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, I was actually wrong. I generated 2 steam points and only used one of them to move, so that wasn't bad. But then I used the other one to try and take a shot at the bird and misfire with the cannon shot and end up doing 2 more wounds to my poor little steam tank here. So 4 wounds out of 6, and I inflicted every one of them. Ah, stupid Imperial Gunnery School. So we go into Elf turn 2, and he brings the chariot in. I do decide to counterattack with the 5 archers, mainly at this point just to get the combat res for the flank, because I'm afraid of impact hits and lions and all sorts of things. Hopefully my poor swordsman will be able to hold out and hopefully win through static combat res. That's really my only plan at this point. And here is where his swordsman came in, or his swordmasters, and this is where I really started handling this badly. He charges the archers, and I fled. So archers flee through everybody, nobody panics, that's no big deal. But then he redirects into halberdiers and makes it. Problem with this, so I counterattack with the spearmen, so that's fine. The problem is, though, is that he's coming into me on his turn, so he's going to have the opportunity to buff himself. And I'm basically dealing with an unbuffed line of purple and yellow that's going to get chopped to pieces here. And that makes me sad. I really should have stuck with or stayed with the archers and let him kill them. And then even if he had overrun, this fight wouldn't happen until my next turn. So I would have the opportunity to buff my guys or debuff his, and I would feel much more comfortable with this fight than I do. Not to mention the fact that when it happens, I forget the freaking Hurricanum and a +1 to hit, so I'm constantly doing that. And over here, he finally manages to get his Silver Helms out from behind the archers, and he's got a pretty good run into the Great Swords or anything else that's over there after this turn. And here he just starts shuffling the spearmen across the board. I'm really kind of surprised he's not coming closer, but I guess he's afraid of the flagellates. I'm really not sure why, but he's not ready to move up the spearmen to come mix it up. And he brings his Lothran Skycutter around here. I'm not really even sure why, to be totally honest. He doesn't end up making great use of it throughout the game, so guess he's just coming to show my Shadow Mage on the roof there a pretty birdie. I'm not sure. So during his magic, he ends up getting Hand of Glory off on his Sword Masters, and I tried to stop it and couldn't. And then he opens up with the Sisters of Avalord on the Great Swords and kills. What is that? Five of them? Six of them? Seven maybe? One, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, it looks like seven of them. God, those freaking sisters are brutal. And there's nothing I can do about them. I can't reach them. And now that the knights are around there, even if I send the great swords towards them, I'm never going to reach them. And over here, things get good. The swordmasters put in a bunch of hurt on the halberdiers. Kill, what's that, 9 of them, and 3 of the spearmen. But they take just a beating right back. There's only 9 of them left, and they break. They run, the spearmen try to catch them and fail. The halberdiers restrain. I probably should have tried having them both chase, but this is kind of annoying because they're over there, and my halberdiers and my spearmen are just kind of all tangled up in each other, and I didn't catch them, so I don't get any points for them. And they're likely to rally because they're leadership 9, and they're still a sizable enough unit that they're going to come in and do some hurt to something. And again, I'm not entirely sure how to deal with it. So, my turn 3, the Flagellates fail a charge against the spearmen, and I think the steam tank misfired another time. It went through like 3 turns of misfiring where it couldn't use the steam breath, and 1 turn where it couldn't use the steam cannon. But I'm misfiring like every turn with this thing, and every shot I try and make, it's pretty terrible. Now, you may notice that this side of the board looks very different. I forgot to show last turn that my swordsman did beat the chariot and ran it off the board. So what happened is I charged the spearmen at the swordmasters. They fled. I redirected into the side of the chariot. That put them in front of the archers, where the archers charged them. They fled back the other way. I redirected the archers into the sisters to get them out of the way for the swordsmen to charge. They ran them through this forest, and then finally I charged with the great swords, hoping that now that they were kind of off in that direction, I would be able to catch them and get out of the way of the knights. And I rolled like balls for every one of those charges. So now the swordsmen or my great swords are in a terrible position. The swordsmen are in a terrible position. The archers are going to get murdered by the Sisters of Avalorn. And the one fight over here I think has a chance is the spearmen against the chariot. And more to the point now, the swordmasters are going to end up rallying, and they're right back in the middle of things. And I'm just, so frustrated. It was an obnoxious run of ping pong and accomplished nothing. This is just kind of a step back to show where everything is. I started moving my halberdiers around the spearmen, like you can see them there, and those 5 archers who I fled from the swordsmen originally are going to continue running, and spoiler alert, they're going to run for the next 3 turns and get the hell off the board. So my magic and shooting are nothing. We go into combat. The spearmen end up breaking the Lothran Skycutter, putting 1 more wound on it. It runs. I don't catch it. And he's going to end up rallying on his next turn. And I'm just, frustrated. I would love to be able to make 1 freaking pursuit roll. It would just let me catch some points. And up at the top, I didn't even make him roll for killing the archers because I knew they were just totally dead and always strikes first. And so during elf turn 3, I think this is, he ends up charging with the knights through the forest. Basically, I had left him just enough room between his sword masters and my great swords to squeeze in there and slam into the front of the halberdiers. And he only lost 1 elf to dangerous terrain. So that kind of sucks. And here you see he rallies with the Skycutter. And here he rallies with the Swordmasters and turns around to face my greatswords. You can also see he's turned his spearmen just a little bit. Yeah, and here you can see the better way where he's turned the spearmen to kind of face what's coming here. He's been shooting at my steam tank with the bolt thrower on the building like every turn and has missed it every time he's taken a shot. Of course, that changes this turn, and he pegs it for one more wound, which is 25% of the wounds that I've inflicted on it. And the Sisters of Avalorn open up on my swordsman unit and kill all but 4 of them and the Witch Huntress. And over here in combat, his knights just absolutely eat my halberdiers. I have 5 halberdiers left and my characters who were way out on the flanks and didn't get attacked. And because of that, I still have my crown of command. So it doesn't matter that he killed 200 freaking halberdiers. I was on a rerollable 9 and stuck. So, turn 4, I slam in. Finally, the steam tank decides to open up, slam into the side of his knights, slam into the other side with the great swords, and I'm hoping impact hits will do enough to thin this unit down and maybe let me take them, because that's really all I got at this point. And up here, the Flagellants try to charge the back of his Swordsmasters, and they fail, so they're just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And the Witch Hunter bails on the swordsmen who are running headlong at the archers just to give them something to shoot at. Maybe get in the way. At this point, that unit is totally worthless. So, during Magic, I basically tried a bunch of things to just get out little bits of spells off. He didn't, or basically got rid of all his magic, stopping everything, leaving me with 2 dice. I used the Power Scroll and ended up getting the Mind Razor off on the Steam Tank with like 2 dice. So those are going to be Strength 9 impact hits, and pretty much going to shred those knights. And so during combat, we did pretty much shred the knights. Lost a couple of guys here and there, and we pursued. And looking at this picture now, I don't know how I pursued with the halberdiers. I shouldn't have been able to, but ultimately they didn't matter. Nobody caught anybody because I can't roll a pursuit roll to save my life, and the fleeing knights end up in the middle of everyone like you see them right there. So then, Elf turn 4, he basically rallies the knights and then moves everything up. I told him it was pretty funny. It kind of looked like everyone was trying to gang up on the knights here on both sides. But he just kind of reformed everything and was getting ready to come back in and try and gain him some points. And over here, he moves the Sky Cutter around to start shooting at my Hellstorm. And the funny part about this is he spends 2 turns trying and failing to kill the thing with the gun on the back of the chariot, and totally forgot that the thing was a chariot, and he could just charge it in and fight me, so I thought that was pretty funny. So, my turn, I guess this is 5. I charge in the Flagellants into the flank of the knights, the great swords into the front of the knights, and I try to get the steam tank into his swordmasters and totally screw that up. My halberdiers, what's little of them left, have kind of compacted themselves and moved off to the side, and the Hurricaneum came up. Over here, my 4 swordsmen are just kind of dancing, trying to attract the attention of the archers, and doing no such luck. And I just took this to show you where the archers had run to. They're within like an inch and a half of the edge of the board. So he's still pretty much holding my magic down. After combat here, we do kill off the knights and try and chase down his prince, who broke. He ends up running through his swordmasters, and both my flagellants and the great swords slam into the swordmasters, and the freaking prince gets away. So he's running off by himself now because, again, I can't catch anybody. So, Elf turn 5, he moves his sisters just slightly to get my swordsman back in his front arc. Here he backed up his spearman, not entirely sure why. Really think if he should have thrown himself into that fight, but again, like I said, I don't know if he's just afraid of the flagellates or what, but he wasn't willing to commit this unit. I think he realized or thought at this point he was ahead on points and didn't want to risk me actually killing the spearman unit. Though I don't really think that was likely to happen. And his freaking general runs over here so that he can assault the building and try and kill my mage in turn 6. And gutsy move, but he should have been dead. I should have run him down. Okay, I guess this is a picture from top of my turn 6, because on turn, like, he killed the swordsman in his shooting. During combat, we kill the swordmasters. The frenzied flagellates have to overrun. And then on my turn of moving, the one remaining greatsword, the standard bearer, runs off trying to hide so he doesn't get killed. So then I basically just keep the flagellates running because I don't want him to pick anything off at this point. And you can't see her because she's behind the building, but I brought the witch hunter around to try and get a couple of shots off on his character, because she does have the killing blow with the range weapons on him. So finally over here, my magic is again a bust, but finally my Hellstorm rocket battery goes off, shoots 3 missiles, or 3 rockets, all of which end up hitting the sisters, and kills like half the unit. Which is good, but it's kind of a too little too late thing because they hold. So, Elf turn 6, he finally remembers that he has a chariot, charges it into the Hellstorm, charges his prince into the building, and yeah, that's pretty much it for his charges. Up at the top, he swift reforms the sisters so they can turn around and shoot the one remaining greatsword and pick up 300 some odd points from him. And she doesn't risk, he doesn't risk casting any magic, just goes ahead and plunks 12 shots into that poor little bastard and kills him and collects the points for the greatsword. So back here, the bird eats my rocket launcher, which is no huge surprise. And in the fight in the center, the Prince fluffs his attacks, and I have a 4-up ward save, so he does no damage. And actually, in that case, we ran this wrong, because we ran that his charge gave him plus. I should have held in the building. Either way, I lost the fight by 1 because we were saying his charge gave him 1. Broke and ran, but there's no way I'm going off the building. And that's the game. And this just kind of shows what was left on the board. And I tell you, at this point, we really had no idea who was winning. I won most of the combats that happened, but I could never catch the points. So we definitely had to go to the calculators and figure out how this one was going to turn out. And so when the points were totaled up, it turned out to be a draw. It was about 80 points in my favor, not enough to make a decision. So, not a bad game. It was strange and kind of frustrating in a lot of different ways, but it was interesting, and it may help me slightly over my fear of High Elves. I still think they're a pretty busted book across most of their choices, but I guess we'll see if Michael won't be able to convince me otherwise as we play. Thoughts on my list? I really miss my knights. Making a ground pounder empire list is not easy, particularly when you only have one horde worth of dudes. I miss my demigryphs. I miss my inner circle knights. And I, in general, don't think that Shadow is as strong a lore for the Empire as Light is. There's just so many good buff spells in Light. And I think if I had the lore Light, I would have had a stronger position. I would have potentially been able to give myself always strikes first, so that I cancel his rerolls. Or I mean, they have two spells in that lore that would cancel the rerolls that he has. Um, that and the light of battle. I mean, there's just a lot of good spells in that lore, and I just don't think the debuffs from Shadow are worthwhile, or at least not for the way I play. Um, as far as my Hellstorm rocket battery, I love the model. I wish it was better, so I didn't feel like I was flushing 130 points down the drain whenever I took it. Um, I kind of wish my opponent had forgotten that he could charge with his Eagle Chariot, because that 130 points would have meant the game. But it wasn't bad. And the Steam Tank, God. Everybody says this thing is so good and talks about it like it's amazing. I can barely get the thing to do anything. And just between misfires and rolling shit for movement, I like it because it looks cool, particularly now that I've painted it and got the little like tuft of steam coming out of the smokestack. It looks cool and I like it, but it's not performing, and that's really why I don't use it very often. But all in all, it was a fun game, and it was nice to kind of play one not attached to the narrative and get a battle report done for you guys. So we will have another narrative battle report that we played that same night up shortly, I hope. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any comments, please leave them below. And please like and subscribe to the video if you've enjoyed what you've seen. Other than that, we will catch you guys next time. Thanks a lot.